In this part of the tutorial, we're going to be creating something like this, even though it's not going to be completely like this one. And I'm also going to be changing the seed. So this is just for reference. And here's actually the final result. So let's delete this one for a second. And this is the proxy that I'm going to be using for Marvelous Designer. I'm not going to go over modeling this object since it's really easy. It's a bunch of polygons. Even though I used another technique which was creating a line. So I just created a line. Let's say that this was a rectangle and I shaped it like so. Then I added a surface modifier on top. And then we have an editable poly, which I fixed some of the issues, an FFT to bring this part down, and a shell modifier. So here's the final result. And lastly, we have a turbo smooth on top. So I'm going to export these to Marvelous Designer. In fact, one of those only. So with this one selected, I'm gonna go to export and export selected, and I'll give it a name, whatever you want here. But again, keep in mind that we will be having the Philip YZ access be on. Okay, then I'll be having this one exported. Let me show you how this one is created. So basically we had a rectangle, you can see it here, which I extruded it. So we basically have a box, and then I have an editable poly on top, then an FFT, and lastly a turbo smooth. I guess I messed everything, so let me undo a couple of times. I'm not sure what I did, so let me reload the scene. Okay, so here's the seed, and lastly I have a turbo smooth on top, which creates this one. And again, you want to export this one separately from the other one, so I'll be exporting this one and we'll continue in Marvelous Designer. Okay, to make this tutorial a little less boring, I created my patterns and also placed them where they should be. So let me arrange them. So this should be fine. And we have two different patterns, and the particle distance and everything is, I guess everything is at default. So I'm gonna hit a spacebar. And we now need to change the scale of some of those. Okay, so this should be fine. I guess what I have done also is to change the parameters of the fabric, and I increased the density from its original value. So I'm gonna select these two, and let's bring down the particle distance to 10. Also for this one. Okay, so now everything's fine. Now I'm gonna pause the simulation and grab my multiple pinning tool, and I wanna pin all around the corners. You could hold down the Control key to remove the pins that you do not want, and you could add by holding down the Shift key. You could also do this in the 3D window if you want. I'll be pausing the video and continue pinning all around the corners, and I'll show you the result of that. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm gonna add just a couple more. Okay, so it's done. Now I'm gonna select this tool and make sure we are in simulation mode. I'm gonna select this one and increase its size. Let's go even more. Even more. Great. Now you can see that I have enough fabric here, or the garment part, that I can move around and create any sort of folding or wrinkles that I want. If you want more resolution, you may decrease the particle distance, and also you may go to simulation properties and bring down the gravity. Let's go for negative 500. $5,500. So this should be fine. Now you can press and hold W and pin some points and create some wrinkles here the way that you want. And if you think this one is too, you may bring down its scale. You could still use this tool and pin a couple of points together and move them around, just like so. We'll be also doing the same thing for this part down here. So I'm gonna scale this one up as well. Okay, as the last step, I'm gonna select both of these and bring down the particle distance to 5, and I press Alt, or rather Control W, and press spacebar for a couple of frames, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so here's the final result, and again, you could do the same thing, select these two, or in fact you don't have to select any of those. Just go export and whatever file that you want. You may use single object or multiple objects. If you do not want the avatar, you could disable that one. And on weld, since I'm gonna be using the border to create a seam, and that's gonna be thin, so unified UV coordinates and centimeters, and you hit OK. Then again, bring it in Mesh Lab and do the decimation. But before that, you have to export it to max and extract the spline that you want. Then bring it to Mesh Lab and decimate it, and then bring it back to max, which we did it for the pillow. So I'm not gonna go over that again. Next, we will be creating the armrests for this chair. So I'm gonna cancel this one. Okay, so this is gonna be the armrest for our chair. I have again created the patterns and moved them somewhat in place. All of the others are the default settings, so they have been sewed together. We have only two pieces of object, and with those settings I'm gonna hit a space. and now I'm trying to match it to the way that I want. And you could also see that this one is flipped. I mean the face, but that's fine. We could fix it in Max. It's not gonna make any issue here. Or in fact, this one is going to be like so. Now let's pin a couple of these points and bring this one down. Okay, so let's say this is what I want. Now I'm gonna select these two and add a little bit of pressure. Let's go for 8. If you want, you could add more pressure to those objects, but that's fine for me. Again, you could pin some points and increase these layers or objects size. Then you could add some wrinkles and folding to make it the way you want. But I'd say this is fine for me. I'm gonna select these two, bring down the particle distance, and let it run for a couple of frames. I'll pause the video. Okay, so this should be fine, I guess. So you need to do the same thing for the other part. In fact, let's press a space to stop this one. So this is pretty fine. I'll be exporting this one, and when I have that one exported, then I can again bring back the particle distance to 20 and do a couple of adjustments. I don't know, create a couple of pins or do whatever you want to make it not the same as the previous one, and select both of those and bring back the particle distance down. And you could export this one as the other armrest, and in Max we will be mirroring this one around, so you could do whatever variations you want. So this is it for this part of the tutorial. In the last part of the tutorial I'll be showing you how I created the main sofa, but again I'm not gonna be doing anything in Max or even probably not in Marvelous Designer. I'll be showing you the end result and the patterns and how that's done.